All right, howdy, folks. I'm Drew Taylor, and welcome to the very first episode of the Daily Drew. Today, I want to let me tell you, this is where the road begins. You know, they say every journey begins with that first step, and this is the first step. And I've done radio and TV since 1997. Done it for a long time. Those of y'all that don't know me, hopefully, we'll go in there and I want I want to share some of my 45 years of successes, bruises, getting my ass kicked, making millions of dollars, being broke and homeless. I've got a life story that is unlike a whole lot of others, and the reason is because my entire life I'm one of seven boys, middle child, raised on a little farm south of San Antonio, Texas. And I like to kind of establish a little bit of who I am, and then we'll go around and talk about other things. And then what is in this for you, and why would you even care? That's what my goal is. Now, my real lesson for today, starting out for today, is that regardless of what life throws you, and I learned this on that farm, regardless of what life throws you, don't allow it to take you off your course. Doesn't mean there may not be detours. Doesn't mean that sometimes there aren't roadblocks. You have to back up and start over. I found myself this year doing that very thing. I hit 65 years old this year in October. And I started off this year, I mean, just gangbusters. Last year, I'm sorry. This is 2026. I'm starting off this year like this, making changes out of things that I learned last year. So, anyway, I was raised on this little farm, one of seven boys, all born in 11 years. We were poor, and I like to quantify that. A lot of people like to say, yeah, I was poor and, walked 4 miles to school uphill both ways, barefoot in the snow, and blah, blah, blah. We all have that. And, but I can quantify it. My parents, after 4 years of not being able to have children, found out that they were going to be having a baby boy. And seven baby boys later, they gave up trying to have a little girl. But the bottom line is seven boys in 11 years. And we're raised on a little farm south of San Antonio. We had 20 acres that was actually had the old farmhouse built in the 1850s of a big estate ranch farm that was out on the San Antonio River, South San Antonio. But by the time my parents got it, that old 950 square foot farmhouse, which was a 2 bedroom, 1 bath house, had 9 people living in it. And we didn't have air conditioning. We did have a bathtub and a toilet in that thing. We had running water. It had been put in at some point. But at the end of the day, we were pretty poor out there, but we didn't know it. If you think about your upbringing, unless somebody tells you you're poor and you're a victim and all that, we didn't know it. We were never going to be victims in our house. My old man, my parents really, they taught us how to work. We were made to get up every day and go out there and do something. You took care of the animals first because they took care of you. And we had an amazing time growing up. We didn't know what we didn't know. I was always, as the middle child, I was the weird one. And I look back on some of the memories of that and the things that we did. But, you know, my dad he was a pretty bad drinker, and he'd pretty angry. He'd get pretty tough at different times, and took it out on us and my mom. We found out later. And so, what I'm the only thing I'm doing here, this isn't a poor me story. This is a story of trials and tribulations and how you get over things. And part of the reason it's so appropriate today, I'm recording this episode instead of it being live. And the reason is when I get up this morning, my wife tells me about midnight when she wakes up, she goes, honey, Eric, the heater isn't on. It's gone off and it's getting cold in the house. We like to keep it a certain temperature. Dad's, he's more sensitive to temperature and other stuff. I check it out. So we don't have any air conditioning or don't have any heating. It's about 30 degrees here. To a lot of people, that's not cold, but we're in Texas. And anyway, so I get up and I'm kind of dealing with that. I'll look at that when I get done with this. Then I decide to jump on and get ready for my broadcast this morning. And I'll be darned if we don't have any internet. So am I going to be denied? Am I not going to do this broadcast? I've been planning to get out and kick off 2026 with a bang. Will I delay it? These are questions for you because you know my answer. Heck no, the show will go on. Okay. And I'm doing this. I've been 3 years without doing a show, but this show's going to go on. So life, and one of today's lessons is don't let life sidetrack you. It can detour all it wants to, but do not let it stop you from reaching your dreams and your goals. Never, ever, ever quit. I will tell you that my number one movie in the world is the movie Rudy. And if you look at old Rudy Rudiger, he lives out in Las Vegas, and I was just short of meeting him. I know Jeffrey Hazlett and Tricia Ben of C-Suite, who are dear friends that I work very closely with. They actually got to meet Rudy. One of these days, that's on my bucket list. So Rudy Rudiger, if you hear this, I want to meet you one of these days. But anyway, the thing that he did and the thing I've lived my life doing is you never, ever, ever give up. Right. So bottom line is part of what I'm going to again and again and again, I can tell you reason and story after story that you'll see if you look in the byline on my email, it says there are a million excuses and reasons to not do something, but a way to do everything. So don't ever, ever, ever quit. So through the course, and I'll be doing this every day, and I'm going to do it at 0700. Now, never say never. Am I going to miss days? Sure. Will it be recorded like this sometimes? Sure. Does life get in the way? Sure. But with technology, we record it, we blast it out there. You can fast forward. It's funny, when I was doing the Wild West Crypto Show, I had many, many, many people go in and say, "You talk too fast." Well, let me tell you, when I was a kid being raised on a little farm, if you didn't squeeze your way in and being the middle child, I mean, look at the personalities of middle children. If you didn't squeeze your way into that thing, into a space, into the dinner table, into being seen and heard, and I learned to do that early and often. And so I will admit I was a problem for probably my family, my parents, and my brothers certainly. But at the end of the day, I never quit smiling, I never quit laughing, and I never quit having an amazing time. So I'm really looking forward to reaching out, having you folks reach out, sharing some of my stuff. This show will grow into incorporating other people that I know that are close to me. There will be intention with every one of these shows. We will leave you with something to do, with some tools and some assets. And then at the end of the day, if you don't do it, it's all on you. You only have one of you. So, folks, look forward to the rest of this. I'll be back here in 2 minutes. Look to see you here again on Drew's The Daily Drew. Okay, now this is going to be a little bit about behind the scenes stuff. So now I stopped that first segment. That was one segment of 3 that we're going to do. And this is a little behind the scenes. And I've got Dad over here eating with me, and got Gabby over here, and she's monitoring him. And folks, life is life. And the great thing about the way that we do things nowadays is you can be casual. Look, I'm in a T-shirt. I did this intentionally. It says loyalty, because I'll never forget that I had a former business partner named Era Cowpack. He passed away from COVID, actually. And Era was telling me that Ronald Reagan was sitting in his house one day after he'd been president. And he asked Ronald Reagan, he said, "What is the number one quality you look for in your team that surrounds you, the people closest to you?" And he said, "Loyalty." Folks, it is, man. I tell you what, the most loyal. You can look at Donald Trump and Michael Cohen. You can look at people that I respected, Billy Crystal and a few others. And let me tell you something: people will sell out to the highest bidder, go all the way back. Somebody sold stuff for 3 pieces of silver, I think. And so, loyalty, number one thing I look for in the people that I get the closest to me. Anyway, folks, this is going to be fun. I'm going to dive right back in. We're going to do another segment here. So watch me gear up as I do this. 3, 2, 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the Daily Drew. This is the second segment of the very first episode of the Daily Drew. Now, I mean, this isn't, I'm not doing this as a show. I'm not doing this really as entertainment, although I hope it is kind of entertaining at times. I laugh at myself all the time. But the intention of this, it's a commitment. It's a commitment that I'm making to you, And then I want you to commit to yourself. You don't have to commit to me. Because at the end of the day, one of the things that I realized, Elon Musk said 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I wrote an article on my LinkedIn probably 5 years ago. Where did all the humans go? Elon Musk wrote 3 or 4 weeks ago that he believes within the next 10 years that there won't really be jobs like we know them today. That society, robots, and AI will do almost everything. And that we will get, us humans will get, there will be a committee of the people that are going to control us. Now, call me a conspiracy theorist, and I am. And the fact is, if you look it up, over time, most of those conspiracy theories, I think it's over 90% of them have been true, proven to be largely true. We're seeing a lot of this about the 2016 election, but I mean, it goes all the way back to the 50s. It goes back before that. When people are given authority, they will at some point abuse it. So think about this. We become this society that AI and robots run almost everything, right? And if that ends up happening and we get some kind of universal basic subsistence, are you going to be happy with that? I'm not. So, how are we, based on what Elon said, how are we going to be above the fray? There will be a hierarchy of people that have everything they want. We have it today, it's all over the world. So, even if there becomes the universal income, which a whole lot of people may be happy with, I just won't be one of them. And I suspect most of the people listening to the show aren't going to be one of them either. So, how do we change that? And as an old cowboy, an inventor, a creator, a dreamer, I've been sitting here working on something for about 18 months, and you'll slowly learn about it because we're going to be bringing this thing out to market, and it'll be my legacy project, I believe. And I know I'm throwing a bunch of crap out there, but just I'm floating a teaser. One of the things that I love to see, I'll never forget when Sweet and Low dominated the market, and when when the blue one. So there was Sweet and Low, which is pink one, and then the blue Equal. When Equal came out, what they did is they mailed to 30 million homes a piece of candy. You can't do that today. A piece of candy on a postcard. And the reason they did that, they owned 25% of the market of artificial sweeteners within 12 months. That's how quickly they got to the market. We do that today via this. So anyway, there's all this info and things that we'll be talking about and other stuff, and I hope that you find it compelling and interesting. I hope that you'll interact with me a lot. I hope that you'll reach in and say, "Hey, talk about this, talk about that. What is your opinion on this?" Because I have opinions on a lot of stuff. So as that goes, I'm going to go back to this thing on Elon Musk. He believes that if you're going to be above the fray, and I support this 100%, if you're going to be above the fray, above the norm, above the basic existence or subsistence, and I think it could be a decent existence, and a lot of people are going to be happy with that most, then you're going to need to have your business of one, your boo. I call it my boo. What I'm creating is my boo, my business of one, my beginning of origin from the time it began running through my entire life. So my boo becomes me and everything that I've ever done, everything I've ever created. And then how do we leverage that and barter that with each other? So it's really kind of a cool concept that the government will not be involved in and blah, blah, blah. And you'll learn more about that. But the other thing that I'm going to do, folks, in 65 years of really putting myself out there, and I mean, I'm the guy that I stop and render aid for accidents. If someone needs help, I'm the first one to dive in there and do it. And when you expose yourself like that, you also become a big target. And I've been a big target a lot of my life, but I'm okay with it, because the good that comes out of that, we need people that'll jump up and act. Most people are spectators in life. Those few that are the doers, and matter of fact, there's an article I just published on LinkedIn. Is AI going to take over the planet? Ron DeSantis just came out and said, We need shut down, strangle, regulate, control AI. I do agree. We need to have a framework regulation and everything else, but we don't need to shut it down. Elon Musk has been afraid of it from day one. Let me tell you what I believe. As a dreamer, as an inventor, as a entrepreneur, as an autodidact who doesn't, I'm not smart enough to know. I didn't go to the facilities of higher indoctrination like a lot of people did. And I took a few college credit hours just to learn about things I wanted to know. But I did not go in and be brainwashed by these universities, these people that are, they think because of their IQ that they know everything. Well, I have to tell you, some of the wealthiest people that I've ever known, some of my family included, weren't the smartest ones. They were just the most vigilant, diligent, vigilant. How do you like that? I can't even talk. But anyway, they got up every day. It's the tortoise and the hare, folks. It isn't necessarily the smartest and the hardest working. In my life, I've probably had more money than any of my brothers earlier than they did, but I've also been broke and homeless, and none of them ever really have. But it's because I've been willing to be a risk taker. I get out there, man, I put myself out in front of it. So decide where you want your role in life. It's a lot safer. I even told my kids when I was raising them, do not be like me. I love it for me, the way that my mind works and the things that I do. But you need to decide for you where you are, where you want to live, where you want to, because there is a place for all of us. So the reason AI will not take over is because the 15% of dreamers, that's what Steve Jobs said, the people that are crazy enough to believe they can change the world, the dreamers, the inventors, the innovators, are the ones that do it because they don't know when to quit and where to stop. So decide where you want your lot in life and then pursue that with vigilance. Nobody can hold you back. Only you hold you back. I could have been stopped this morning. I could have justified when I ran a marathon at mile 22, I quit 1,000 times. When I finished at 4 hours and 11 minutes, you never quit. Folks, got one more segment left. We're going to be back here on the Daily Drew, and I hope you find this fun and entertaining. Please let me know. See you back here in 2 minutes. All right. So, folks, hopefully you see a little bit where this is going. And if you're just now tuning into me and kind of who I am, look at my stuff, look at my LinkedIn, go to my Wild West Crypto Show YouTube. I'm not doing those shows anymore. This is kind of new for me doing what I'm doing here. But at the end of the day, I mean, I've been in a lot of places. I've done a lot of things, and I'm just wanting to. I do have people. For some reason, I get up every day and I wake up. Haven't been on that farm. I wake up every morning about 2 or 2:30 in the morning. I'm usually awake for a little bit. Don't allow myself to fully wake, but I start preparing my day. And my wife said to me, this has been a couple of years ago. She goes, Drew, God was unfair to the rest of us. She said, you get up every day in a good mood. Now, you're never in a bad mood. It doesn't mean you don't get mad or have to deal with things, but every single day you're the happiest person that I've ever known. And I said, oh, well, hold the phone. Here's what you don't know is I wake up before that sun wakes up. And I start every single day going, God, you've given me a mountain to climb I cannot climb. And I'm going to need your help. And I start sorting out my day because I do a lot of stuff every day. Larry Knudsen, very good friend of mine. Larry, many years ago when he and I met, and we'd see each other every 2 or 3 months. One day he said to me, he said, I sure enjoy visiting with you. And he said, kind of a different perspective. I'm a crazy guy. And he said, but I have a question for you. He said, I'd like to, come visit with you more often. And I said, well, let's do that. He goes, but you're always so busy. I said, Larry, I'm going to be busy. All you need to do is be part of my busy. Just be part of my schedule. Part of the reason I even started this, literally working with C-suite, and I'm chatting, and look, I don't know why. I mean, I tell people I know me well enough to know that if I met myself on the street, I'd probably kick my own ass. And I say that facetiously, but I can be hard to take. I'm kind of like salt. Man, dish isn't quite as good without any of it. but too much of it can ruin a dish. And so too much of me, I probably get tired of myself. Anyway, so I just told Larry, I said, be part of my busy. And so after that, he and I got to where we had regular lunches and see each other regular time. And this is going on for many, many years. And so all I'm telling you is I've had people say to me, old mentor of mine that it turned out to be just a weasel like too many of them, but he and I hung around when he got tested. That's what I love, when God tests people. And I've been tested. When God tests people and you fail the test, that's the medal of who you are. But anyway, I had this old buddy of mine. He used to call me up in the old days, and he was a bit of a sourpuss. And he'd say, "Hey, Drew, will you come? I'll buy you dinner and drinks if you just come sit across the table from me and talk to cheer me up." And I'm like, and he was down as matter of fact, he was a drinker himself, like to have plenty, and he would at Lent he was Catholic, and for Lent he'd always give up drinking. And me and the other buddies that he had friends because of convenience and money. There was nobody I knew that liked him because he was a good guy. I was one of the few. But anyway, it was hilarious because when he'd quit drinking for Lent, people couldn't stand to be around him. And he knew it. We talked about it. But anyway, folks, we're going to dive back into the closing segment here. I hope you find this fun. Good news is, if you don't like it, you can pass it. All right, I'm diving right back in. All right, folks, welcome back to segment 3 of the Daily Drew. This is my first broadcast, January 1st, 2026, as I promised. I've had my coffee. I've done my Tai Chi. I've taken my X Factor wellness. I've taken my morning oils that I do for my regimen. I'll be sharing with y'all some of the things that I do. Not that you want to emulate me. It may be because you don't want to do anything I do. But either way, information can be a good thing. So, one of the things that I hope to share with y'all on a daily basis is to almost give you homework. There's an old thing in business: whenever one's responsible, no one's responsible. All I'm going to do, there's people out there, Anthony Robbins and Bob Proctor. I mean, you name it. There's motivational people. There are people out there that people will spend a lot of money listening to, subscribing to, listening to their messages and all that, because they need that perspective, that angle. One of the things about being a dreamer, a creative guy, and I'm not saying I'm special by any means, but being a guy whose mind runs wild all the time. My wife says I have a theme park in my head. But one of the things about being that kind of a person is that things come to me very, very easily. I'm a published author and poet. Um, I'm I'm a songwriter. I'm not going to say any of this stuff's any good, but I've got a lot of it. Um, so one of the things that I want to do, you are the only person, the primary person responsible for you. So every single step you take every day will determine where you're going. And if you're not happy with where you're going, then change that. Okay. And I'm not telling you have to throw your life away and do a completely new life. Let me tell you, Sherry, my wife of 20 plus years, my soulmate, I'm telling you, we're closer than we have ever been. Today, I see her for the woman that I saw in her when we met. But man, a lot of tragedy, illness, uh, addiction, a lot of things kept Sherry from being the woman that I knew she was when her and I met. And we stuck it out through all this time. People give up too easy, man. Never, ever, ever quit. I mean, sometimes you have to. Look, I left my first marriage after 16 years. And I didn't want to, but I spent over 5 years trying to fix it before I left. But with Sherry, we stuck with it. There was always enough good stuff. And then, a little over a year and a half ago, Sherry quit drinking. I didn't know how big an influence on our life it was. But when she quit drinking, the woman that she has become, I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm embarrassed and ashamed sometimes for some of the things that almost come out of my mouth because I had PTSD. Yeah, I always laughed about that, but I did, from the way that our interaction was. Sherry and I live a life of ultimate respect and consideration. It wasn't always present in our life, but it's our goalpost. And you work towards improvement and being your best you, living your best life every single day. So, what I want to do is, I'm going to challenge you every day to take one step forward If you have to take 5 forward because you're going to take 4 back, that you know you. I don't. But pick up 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 tidbits. Don't change everything about you. Look, we don't win and lose in life overnight. We do it by degrees. You don't get fat or skinny, healthy or unhealthy, rich or poor. You don't win or lose friends. All of this happens over time by the steps you take. That's why when I went broke and I was homeless, I wasn't mad at anybody. I didn't blame anybody. It was all in my hand. Now, I will tell you, God had an influence over that. It was what it took. I've always lived an honest, righteous life. I'm not going to say I've never done anything I'm not proud of or that I'm ashamed of. But you can't go back. You can only go forward. And so forgive yesterday's you and invest in tomorrow's boo. Become the best you can be. Because you're going to want to leverage that business of one. How smart you are. Look, and people say, people tell me all the time, I can't do a show. I couldn't do it. Yeah, you can. Almost everyone I know has experience and expertise, and I'm autodidact. I know a lot of stuff about a lot of things. I learn from people every freaking day. And so how I do it is I kind of interview them. I just have a conversation with them. I don't do a show. Now I'm sitting here doing this, but I can tell you, and my buddy Dino, folks, when y'all meet Dino and Soriano, he and I are going to be doing a show together. It'll be born out of this. But let me tell you, Dino and Soriano, he and I, man, there's another shirt that I wear because I believe in giving messages out to people. I think if you hide who you are, then you empower other people to trounce on them. Okay. Loyalty. Another one is steel sharpens steel. And I can't wait to do this deal with Dino Soriano, you know. So listen, folks, here's a couple of things. And this is going to be your task. I want you to pick one thing about you that you will change, that you will commit to do. Start every day with a win. When I wake up early in the morning like I do, and I have my conversation with God, I peel off the incremental steps. Red McCombs many, many years ago. And if you don't know him, he was a billionaire from San Antonio. I had the benefit and the burden of being a business partner with Red McCombs' son-in-law for about 5 years. And but Red McCombs told me, he said, start every day with the toughest thing you have to do first thing in the morning, because then it goes downhill from there. And make a list of everything you need to do every day. So what I'm going to challenge you to do today, and I'm going to be back on tomorrow with a new challenge. So you're going to keep up, or you're going to get behind. Because if you get overwhelmed, typically, it isn't that you can't dig out. Most people give up and won't dig out. So follow me, because I've got a long way to go to being my best me. So follow me on growth this year. Let's measure it. Let's measure who you are. Let me tell you something. When I began 2025, I was about 230 pounds, blood pressure over 200. Uh, uh And I had a lot to work on. I'm not going to say I was the proudest of me. I had a lot of stuff going, a lot of momentum, a lot of heat. I created a lot of stuff. But let me tell you something. Started doing this Tai Chi. I'm doing my X Fractal Wellness, and I'll share all those secrets for free for you, and share the stuff we do as things go forward. But let me tell you something. At 195 pounds, more flexible than I've ever been in my life. I take 0 medications. I have no illnesses. I checked my blood pressure yesterday morning because I want to be able to tell you all today. 132/86. Boom. Live to be your best life. Make the list of things that you're going to change tomorrow and commit to one of them. And I'll be back here again tomorrow morning. Time flies. Dino missed you today, but I'll get you back in here, buddy. Folks, live your best life. This is the Daily Drew. We don't become stronger overnight, so we become one decision at a time. Make the best one for your life today.